Now we're going to learn more about the Vendor Center. To open the Vendor Center, simply click Vendors on the home page. Or you can click Vendors, Vendor Center, but I like efficiency, so instead of doing 2 clicks, I just click once on Vendors. First of all, note that we are looking at the solution to this case. You can see the word solution is in my company name to remind me that we're looking at the solution. So you will not have all the same vendors, nor will you have any of the same balances until you finish the case. On the left is a list of our vendors. Remember, a vendor is a company or person from whom we buy goods or services. So, looks like we purchase our office supplies from Williams Office Supplies. Our power bill comes from Minneapolis Electric and Gas, and we get our insurance from Midwest Mutual. Now, in the balance column, we have a list of all the balances we owe to each of the vendors. Some we owe some amounts, some we owe nothing. If we add the balances, what do we get? Well, if you take the time to add these, you get $6,250. That should be the same as the balance in our accounts payable account. A fast way to see our accounts payable balance is to open the chart of accounts. So to open that, we go to Lists, Chart of Accounts. We look down here, find accounts payable, and we see that we do indeed have a balance of $6,250. So as we can see, our total AP is $6,250, and the Vendor Center breaks this total out by showing how much we owe to each vendor. So I'm going to go back to the Vendor Center. And as we learn in our Intro to Accounting 2 class, this part of this Vendor Center, the balances, is called the Accounts Payable Subsidiary Ledger. That's way too many syllables, so most people just call it the AP subledger. So this is just a breakout of our total AP showing who we owe the money to and how much to each vendor. Now if we single click a vendor on the vendor list, such as Kuza and Carl Associates, notice how the company details shows up on the right over here. Things like the address, phone numbers, etc. And if we look at the bottom right, we see all the transactions we have had with a vendor. Now you might say, well, it looks like we don't have any transactions with a vendor. So this is the key part. If you want to see all the transactions for a vendor, there's 2 steps. Make sure this says all transactions, which it does. But this is often set to this fiscal year. We want to change that to include all dates. So to do that, you click here, we scroll all the way to the top, and we choose all, and voila. Here are our transactions with this vendor. Looks like we've had 2. A bill on the 2nd of February, and then later we pay the bill with a check on the 22nd of February. Now that we're looking at all the transactions, if we wanted to inspect, change, or delete one of these transactions, you just double click it to open it. So I'm going to double click this bill. It took us to the Enter Bills window, which we will learn about later. And from here, I could just inspect it and then save and close. Or if I wanted to make a change, I could make a change and then save and close. Or if I wanted to delete it, I could click the delete button. Now, one thing about deleting a transaction is this delete button is not here for all the windows. So if you can't find a delete button here and you want to delete a transaction, it's always available on the Edit menu. So just go to Edit and then look for Delete. And notice the keyboard shortcut is Control-D to delete it. But I'm not going to delete it because this is my solution. I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to click Save and Close to close this transaction. And one final thing. It's important to know the difference between single clicking a vendor name and double clicking a vendor name. Notice I double clicked it. So when you double click a vendor name, it takes you into the edit screen of that vendor so you can change things like the vendor's phone number. I'll pick a better vendor. That's actually Kristen Reyna, our boss. I'll double click Jeter Janitorial. So here we could update their phone number, update the address, update any of the payment settings or the account number, etc. So I don't want to edit anything, so I'm just going to click cancel, or I could also click OK. So again, make sure you understand the difference between single clicking a vendor. So if you single click, it will show the vendor's information up here and then the transactions down here. But if we instead double click it, it takes us to this edit menu. And so if you get here by mistake, just click OK or click cancel, and then you're back to the vendor center. So I guarantee you that if you're like me, you will accidentally double click some of these instead of single clicking them.